Well, welcome. This is our mostly weekly meditation with WeAwake, where we meditate together and work on our stuff together and we try to use different tracks that we've created over the years in our company, iAwake. So there's a lot of good ones, and this just gives everyone a chance to try it out. Today, we're going to be doing, I think it's track one of a collection, part two. It's called "The Universe is Friendly." The universe is friendly. Think about that. So, and the track that we're listening to is called "Deep Space," and it's about 22 minutes long. It's got a lot of uses. It's a great track to meditate with. So, let me say a few words before we get going. I have been reading an unpublished manuscript of A.H. Alma's, or Hamid Ali. And it's called The Inner Beloved. And it's the last part of the trilogy of books that he wrote. And it has a foreword by Ram Dass, who's a great spiritual presence and teacher who's been dead for years. So it's kind of cool to have a new book coming out with foreword by Ram Dass, because Hamid had asked him to write a foreword years ago, I suppose. And so it's it's coming out. And he talks about it goes through this whole thing of the basic and the spiritual journey, and this is very universal in many different spiritual traditions. Uh, that this inner beloved, that you find that God is within you, and God is love, basically, and that is just okay. That's one of the deepest things you can realize, and the universe is friendly. Basically, that ultimately everything is really okay because it's all God and God is love. Hmm. Even, what's going on, somehow, uh, all of this, no matter how horrible it seems, is redeemed by this deep, deep love. And I was reading the book, it reminded me of experience I've had when I was young. I was 11 or 12, 67 or 68. And I had this experience where I experienced God in my young boy mind, boy soul, and or maybe an old soul, I'm not sure. But I just like, bam, God is loving, God is everywhere. And everything is really okay, and it's like, and this is like the most important thing that you could ever know. Then why did they ever tell me about this in church? And I grew up Catholic. So, this, and I'd been reading the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5, when this happened, and when he gets up and says, disciples came into him, and he opened his mouth and taught them, "Blessed are the poor, blessed are the meek, blessed are those who hunger and thirst after righteousness, they'll be filled," etc. That portion, and I've just had this, and this state of God realization, if you lasted for several months, lasted a long time, and I was trying to explain to my parents, and they didn't get it. And I explained to my friends, and they were very interested. And they all in retrospect, they all turned out to be very devout uh, in their lives. So maybe I planted a seed. I don't know. For anyway, that was interesting. And it was very confusing because I tried to go into different churches and I did different things that led me to search all over for this somebody that could relate to this experience that I had, and which kind of branded my soul. It's not something I could just blow off. It was like always there. Even when the direct experience, well, I wasn't experiencing that state anymore, it still left a deep, deep impression. So in my travels early on, I must have been around 18 or so, I discovered a biography of St. Francis of Assisi. So I started reading this and I was like, bam, that's what I'm talking about. This man, yes, that's it. And a little later, I saw the film by Franco Zeffirelli, Brother, Sun, and Sister Moon, which is a portrayal of the early part of Francis conversion, and it's gorgeous, gorgeous film. And it has the music is by Donovan, and the songs are just terrific. And that's it. So it was bringing that up for me when I was reading this book, The Inner Beloved by A.H. Almas or Hamid. And it got me thinking about St. Francis and some of the really cool things about him. And later on, I went with Pam. We were traveling to Rome, but we stopped in Assisi. This was in late November, I think it was. And, I'd never been much for holy places and pilgrimages. It's like God's everywhere, and, we just don't get it. And I got there, and it was all foggy and cold. And so I said, "Hey, Francis, how about clearing this up?" And fog starts to lift. And it's just like, there it is, the cathedral, and Sisi's a beautiful town with, Roman temples, all this stuff there. And it's like a divine vision. So I we got a room right across the nobody was there. It was like a holy ghost town. It was like no tourists. It's a great time to go to Assisi in November. Millions of people go there every year. But right at the window looking out the basilica where Francis' body is, and his early brothers are all buried there. And so I walked in the church, and it said La Tumba de Francesco. And I was, oh my God, I'm not ready for this. And I went down, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And it was experience of just like burning off pain and karma and everything. It was just a very powerful experience. I just sat there and with a few other people. There weren't many people there. And I got me thinking about Francis, in his life. He was and he's considered a universal saint. The Sufis, Idris Shah said he was a natural Sufi. Idris Shah is a great uh, Sufi master himself and writer. And he's considered by Buddhists and by the Hindus and by, Muslims, that a real saint. And he had this great, great love. And he'd gone through this whole conversion, darkness and existential emptiness. And boom, 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 and he finally broke through, and he discovered what he was looking for, what Hamid would call the inner beloved, or the realization of God inside. And he had it was just, and this love just wasn't the love of, interior monkish life. It was an outpouring of his love. And he connected with the natural world and with animals, because he saw all his brothers and sisters, brother sun, sister moon, uh, you know, brother dog, brother tree, brother bird. And one time he preached to the birds, and they all came down, and it's all big, huge flock of birds. They all landed right next to him. And one of my favorite stories is about this little town in Italy called Gubbio. And Francis was, he would travel through with his brothers and, you know, talk to people about the love of God. And when he got there, he found that the town was very traumatized, because there was this big old wolf that lived outside of the town and was traumatizing. I don't know if it killed people or anything, but everyone's terrified of this wolf. And they said, "Oh, you know, Father Francis," and they recognize him as a saint in his lifetime, and that's not really good. He wasn't an official saint, but for people to think you're a saint can be very problematic. But anyway, they said, "Can you help us with this wolf?" And so I said, "Okay." He goes out to the lair, or this cave where the wolf was living, and he goes up to the wolf, and he says, "Brother Wolf, now you are really scaring the people in this town, and they're terrified, and that's not okay. So I want you to change and not terrify these people anymore." So Brother Wolf goes, "Eh, okay." He says, and so he walks back into Gubbio with this big old wolf, and everybody's, "Oh my God." And Francis has this wolf right next to him. And he tells the people, "All right, this is Brother Wolf, and I've talked to him, and he's not going to terrify you guys anymore, but you need to feed him. Okay. And that way he won't, have to eat your chickens or your children or your cats or anything else." So they all agreed. And the story went that he became the protector of the town, and he was a representative of God's miraculous love to the people of Gubbio, which is kind of a nice fairy tale type story, that comes up. Well, anyway, back I think it was in the 1960s. It was in the latter 20th century. They were redoing the little church in Gubbio, and they dug up the altar of the church, and they found the skeleton of this huge wolf underneath the altar, which I thought was pretty cool. And yeah, fact check me if it ain't, see if it ain't so. And the one other story I want to share about Francis that came up for me today, he went on the Second Crusade, and his heart was broken because his thing was to live in spiritual poverty with his brothers. They lived on the land, they would beg their food, and he turned over the kind of the leadership of the management of the his fraternity to another brother. And right away, he started collecting money and building big monasteries and getting lands and everything. And this was totally contrary to what Francis wanted to do, and it broke his heart. So he went on the crusade, and some people think he was just going there to be martyred. He just kind of wanted to die, and it was so painful for him. So anyway, he goes over where the Muslim camp is, and walks into the camp, and he's in his ragged ass robe just kind of falling apart, and a little rope around him would hold it together. And they don't kill him, and they take him to the Sultan, who is the leader of the Muslim forces. And apparently he and the Muslim leader just really connected on a very, very deep level, and they conversed for a day and a half. And and it was like, well, I love you, Sultan. And he was like, yeah, I love you, Francesco. They just, it's this heart thing. And so Francis left, and it was this very powerful experience. And it's also an example of, how love can transcend these great hatreds in the world. That love, that love of God can do that and can connect people. And you think of the Christians and the Muslims at that time, what great hatred there was. And you think about Palestinians and Israelis and all these things that seem insoluble. Well, there does seem to be a power that transcends that can heal all things. So when back in Assisi, I went to behind the altar of the basilica there, and Francis is buried downstairs at a really low level with his brothers. There's this room that I discovered. I didn't have a guide, so I was just walking into all this stuff, and it was a kind of a little museum of Francis. And you walk in, the first thing you see is Francis' robe, that he died, and it's like, oh my God, and some poems that he'd written in his own hand. But he also had this big ram's horn uh, hanging from a string, and it was a Muslim ram's horn that the Sultan had given to him that they used to call people to prayer. Right, the Muslims pray 5 times a day. Well, this, and people pray. So when Francis got back with his Muslim gift from the Sultan, he started using that. I guess for the rest of his life before he got too sick, to call his brothers to prayer. So if that's not a deeply ecumenical, beautiful move at a time when Christians and Muslims were slaughtering each other, I mean, it's just a great, great thing to see that ram's horn was very impactful. So getting back to the inner beloved, and Hamid is saying that this inner beloved, the love of God, however you want to language that, is inside of each one of us. And for whatever reasons, because of our woundings, because of experiences, because of family issues, abuse, whatever, we really cut ourselves off from that. All right, that is our birthright. We're who we really truly are. We don't have to go anywhere to find it. It's right there. It's inside of us. So I was thinking maybe this meditation we can. There's a Christian type of meditation. It's called centering prayer, where you just focus on your heart, okay, and you just put your attention there, and you just breathe into your heart. And if your mind, goes, you just keep going back there. And so that works It's a very powerful meditation part, whether you're a Christian or not. And so this meditation just like us to focus on what is keeping me from experience this love inside. Okay. Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within. And later on, he said it's also without. And so this love overflows. And you see, well, God is love and it's all God. And everybody becomes lovable and everything is precious. And you don't own anything because everything is just a gift. And it's called spiritual poverty. It's just brilliant, brilliant state. And that's what can happen when this happens. And so yeah, so let's just focus on that. Sit up, relax, and just focus on your heart center and see if you can feel into that deep love that is there, that transcendent love. But if there's anything that's keeping you from going there, just sense that. What might that be? And am I willing? Am I ready to let go of some of that stuff so I can be there with myself, with God, with love? So. Shall we go? This is Deep Space. The universe is friendly, and it's 22 minutes approximately. And let's do this. So how was that for you guys? It was pretty powerful for me. The question was, what is keeping me from loving deeply, from this love I've experienced in my life, and love that I experienced when I was a child. Keeps me from that. And the answer for me was pretty clear. It's fear. Okay. So if you've been in love, say with another human being, and you get jilted, or it breaks up, or your beloved dies, it just really, really hurts. And often we make a decision, well, screw that. I'm not going to ever let myself get that vulnerable again because it just hurts too much. But Hamid says uh, that we have to be willing to feel that stuff, and that's part of the journey. And you can't just jump from regular consciousness to this deep experience of transcendent, very personal, intimate love without being willing to experience the pain also. And so we get hurt and we close down. It could be a love relationship, it could be losing a loved one, it could be growing up in a family that was not there for you. Uh, and it's very difficult sometimes. So also I referred to experience that I had when I was a kid about this waking up to God. God is love. And I also had a series of reoccurring dreams when I was a child. And often, it's not just me, but I think oftentimes when we're young, we get these signposts, we get these experiences of something beyond ourselves, something beyond what we were learning in school. And it's just, wow, we experience awe, like we are, something is really good and powerful and beautiful. And it's just, I don't know how to describe it. And I don't know what to do with it, but it becomes the the grain of sand that the pearl can form around. Those early childhood experiences can be very powerful, and I think we all probably have had those. And you can go back and see if you can remember any. But in this stream, and this happened quite a few times, I'd be in front of this big pit and look in it, and there's all this horrible, just putrid, terrible stuff, dark stuff. And then I'd fall into it in the dream. And it's just horrifying. I'm going down, 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 down. It seemed like endless. And then I break through the bottom, and I'm in this beautiful ocean, of light and love. It's just like wow, and all the corruption, everything is just washes off me. So that was, I think, a big clue for me in my life and my inner work and my inner journey that you got to go through the dark. You've got to be able to feel the pain. And I'm really good for feeling the pain of the world, uh, pain of nature. Sometimes just driving down a road would be so painful because, I'd see what we've done to the natural world and all God's critters and everything. It would just hurt. I'd feel it inside, take it very personally. So, but we have to be willing to do that. But there also has to be some kind of assurance that beyond that, there's something that's actually okay. And there's a okayness and a goodness, essential goodness. It's going to be all right. Ultimately, it's going to be all right. And when I was a little kid, and I had this experience of God, and most people don't walk around in that. So it's like, oh, they're God. They just don't realize it yet, but they're going to realize it eventually. So no sweat. It's going to be okay. That's how I saw it. And the birds and the bees and the dogs and the trees. That was all too. But as human beings, we just didn't, we forgot somehow. It got covered up. So a lot of the work is just perhaps interior archaeology, you're digging We're trying to find Alexander's tomb, right? The lost tomb, or the Holy Grail, or the love of God, that deep place inside of us. And you have to do some digging and do some effort. And we do that because we feel that what we're doing is not enough. We feel lonely. We feel cut off. We feel estranged. We're feeling pain. If everything is going just ducky in your world, I mean, working out, you're probably not going to want to do this work. There's got to be something that compels you to look inside and to face your fears and to face the pain. Um, yeah. So, and then we have teachers and stuff that can point us on the way and let us know that it's okay, and help us on the journey, people that have been there before us. So, yeah. So I hope some of us have had a intuition or a feeling of that experience of deep love inside, and maybe some of the things that had gotten in the way of us experiencing that on a deep level. And if that's okay too, that's part of the journey. And um, but it's going to be okay. So, and I don't think it's anything we can work our way into or meditate our way through. It's ultimately, it takes something beyond our ego selves that has to kick in and help us. But if we can put our sails up, in our little boats, but we can't control or make the wind that comes from a higher source than us. So anyway, thank you for being with us, and God bless you. And yeah, thank you for what you're doing, and stay on your journey and try to be kind to someone or somebody or some creature today. That's a good practice. Okay. God bless. I hope.